As of me recording this video, there is only a few hours left until the mob vote happens. And I just thought I could pull something quickly to talk about what you probably should vote for and why you should vote for it. But everybody has their preferences, and that is okay. But there are some mobs I don't think should be added to the game that, in my opinion, that doesn't matter at all. Can possibly ruin the experience of the game. I'm gonna go into more detail about all the mobs now. Starting with the glare. That is the first mob revealed of the videos. It has this almost pinecone shape, upside down pinecone shape that is green. There's probably a picture on screen. It has these eyes, almost like a ghost, which kind of fits great. It's not a hostile mob as all these mobs are. It is a mob that tells you if an area is dark enough for mobs to spawn, which is very useful, kind of. It isn't that useful, but it's kind of a cool idea, and the mob looks pretty cool too. It also makes cute sounds. It's actually pretty cute, as they say in the video. But that could be a solid vote, because then it's something simple that is just added to the game that just adds on more mobs, and it doesn't have that feature. It doesn't have some kind of feature that just makes it that makes it like very, very, very special. I don't think it drops some. I don't think it drops items, or that we know of yet. But it's only like useful to keep as like a pet in game. It'd be good as a pet. And the dark corner, the dark spots could be useful in some places, but it isn't useful all the time if you think about it, in a sense, because you can just torch spam or just try to light up or just use the F3 function. But it's a cool mob nonetheless. So let's move on to the LA. The LA is the second mob showcased for the mob vote. This design is like this spirit, almost like the Vex. I'll probably put the mob on the screen, and somewhere on the screen. So the LA is not, it wasn't specified what it does actually. We have a rough understanding of how they wanted it to work, and the way they wanted it to work, I think, is still kind of something that we should not have in the game. It's just, it might ruin the game in a sense that made things pointless to go get, since explaining the powers to the LA right now, because I didn't. So the LA simply just, you give it an item or you play music, it comes to you. You give it an item and it leaves and collects more of those items, so you play music again to get it to that place, and it just gives you more items. That seems very overpowered in a, if you think about it. If it's added to the game, it might like ruin the creativity of like building farms, in a sense. As why would you need like farms like iron farms anymore? Because you can just give some iron to a bunch of allays and just send them out. You just send them all out and they just come back with more iron or something. And also shown that it can also, like in the video, in the mob vote video, Jeb gives it a cookie, which is a crafted item. And I haven't researched this, but I don't know if it can spawn I am not entirely sure. I haven't checked the loot pools of chests, but for all I know, cookies don't spawn. They don't spawn in the overworld. They're a crafted item, and you need cocoa beans and wheat to make them. So it's shown that it can collect crafted items, but what my friend more described it as like a printer. It's more like a printer. It just gives you more items, which I think is incredibly broken, and don't think it should be added to the game. As though many people want this mob, I don't think it's a good fit to the game. It might ruin a lot of things. It might be useful for a lot of things, but one thing it might not be useful for is the creativity of farms. Like every farm will just be an LA farm after that. Or if you just want experience, then you just have one farm that's a regular farm, like we have now. So that's what you gotta take into consideration if we get that mob. It will just be printing. We just print items. They didn't specify it well enough what it does. It just prints items for you, for all we know. So like, it does. What if you give it a dragon egg? Just come back with another? Just one in the game. Just one in one world. You know. What if you give it a netherite block? Does it come back with more, or just another netherite block? One thing I saw when I was checking like comments on YouTube and Twitter when I watched the videos, I saw this person that thought it would probably, if you give it netherite or something, it would go and collect nether related items with a small chance of getting that. But that's not confirmed. That is his theory, but still, I think that is way too good. It's almost like the piglin trade, just with no drawbacks. You don't give it gold. You can give it whatever you want. It's like the piglin trade. You just get whatever you want. It's just it 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 ruins some part of the game. It just takes away the mining and crafting, if you think about it. When you already have one item, you can just get more and more and more. This is the mob that is probably the most controversial, and I have been rambling for 5 minutes now, as I feel very strongly about this mob and why it should not be added to the game. It is very cool and very interesting, and when I first saw it, really wanted it, but I just thought hard about it, and it's not a good addition to the game. It's really not. It would ruin some elements of the game, farms and such, as I said. But less about that. Maybe I'll go into talk about it more at the end. But let's move on to the last mob. That is the Copper Golem, the last mob to be shown. It is a mob you can craft, like like summon or something, like the Iron Golem, which is pretty cool. Don't have any other golems in the game, so it's pretty cool. By the looks of the video, it looks like it is small. It's like smaller than the player, or as tall as the player, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's just the size of regular golems, but it has a pretty cool design. I would say it's pretty cool, and I'm trying not to have bias, but this is probably the mob I'm voting for because of the creativity you can have with it. As the LA can give some creativity at the start when you're making farms for such. I am getting into the leg, and this is about the Copper Golem, but it gives some creativity at the start, but then just stops because you've just reached the peak of the LA. Every farm is that just different, kind of different. So, and the Copper Golem really allows for something else. It's like, when you have two pressure plates and a chicken inside a glass case. It's almost like that, I thought. probably, just that it pushes copper buttons exclusively, it seemed like. But it also seems like it again die. But I think you can wax it so it doesn't die or oxidize then. So that is the thing about the Copper Golem. It oxidizes over time. It's like normal copper, but you can probably wax it and like just make it live forever. But it's gonna be a pain if you forget about that. But it could be really useful in some systems. But it just pushes button randomly, so you can have like the chicken pressure plate thing, just more advanced. It has a lot of potential. I think this is the mob that has the most potential in the game. That like or on the vote. It has the most potential for redstone engineering. It has the most potential for a lot of things. It's mostly a redstone mob, but this is a solid vote. This is a very good vote, I think. I've thought about this very hard. I actually was on the Glare team and was on the LA team first, but then I started thinking about it. I always go into like I think of scenarios when these mobs are like showcased or the biomes or something, and I think of how it could be, and that is probably some of the most important. But the Copper Golem, I when I think about it, it can have a lot of potential. But when I thought at it first, I didn't think of waxing. That's pretty cool. Also, when it oxidizes, you basically have a statue. So that could be actually pretty useful for builds too. Could look pretty cool. So it is probably 1 block tall, if I think about it that way, probably. But it would be really cool to see that in game. But now I'm on the biased team, and I am biased towards that. So some may just take my opinion like, oh, you're biased against that. But I've thought about this pretty hard. So I this is a very good vote, and this is something you should vote for. So I'll go over everything again. The Glare, which is the mob that shows like makes noises in dark spots that can spawn mobs. Useful and cute. It can be useful and cute. It's pretty cute. It is very good, but or not very good, but it's cute and could be just an addition to the game. It's almost as useful as the glow squid, which I voted for. I mean, but the glow squid it didn't have a lot of potential, or it could have a lot of could have had a lot of potential, but when it was added, many people didn't like it, and just thought it was useful. It looked cool, pretty cool, but then the ink set came, and that was actually pretty cool to be able to put glowing signs, and many people got very creative about that. So that was actually, I think that was a good addition. But the Moo Bloom and the Isolator would also have been very good picks. Although the last vote was a very good, it was a very good selection of mobs and really got you thinking. But this year's selection, if you go over to the LA, which is basically the top dog, it lets you spawn items, but it's very useful. It's very useful, but it ruins many elements of the game, like mining and crafting, because you just get one item and you just do that. It's like Pocket Edition. If anybody remembers the glitch in Pocket Edition on multiplayer, you know when you went to that chest, put an item, your friend find diamonds, just put in that chest, and then you both click on it, and you just get more diamonds. It's a duplication glitch. I don't know if it still works. Probably doesn't, and it was broken. You just duplicated everything, so it wasn't good. It actually ruined the game. It's a glitch that ruined the game. Like, when you think of things that are farms, that is the most thing I think about when the LA, when I think about the LA, it can ruin creativity of a game making farms. But like they removed the no-tick farm, and that was very, very impressive if somebody actually thought about that. They managed to no-tick the sugarcane and cactus. How did they even come up with that? And it's genius. But they removed it. But it was very genius. It was very creative. But the LA, it would like ruin some of that creativity, because what's the reason to like use other farms when you can have probably a massive LA farm that is way more productive? This might sell you on this, like saying the LA farm very productive. It is, but I think it is a very good mob, but probably not as good pick. Probably not a good pick, but probably a good pick also. I don't know. I am very confused on this. We might need to learn more about the mob. I think one theory is that it can just collect food items. Still, that would just remove the whole point of having animal farms, but maybe it's good. Maybe that would also be good, but that would also make it pretty useless because you can just get food really easily. Because it probably won't give you good food, but or you just give it good food then. But you can just trade with villagers too and get a lot of golden carrots. But it's just a mob that is hard. It is hard to like think about. Well, if we should implement it or not, if we should vote for it or not. The last mob, the Copper Golem, it has a lot of potential. I think the redstone community is actually, some of the redstone communities like, this is a cool mob probably, and I get that it is a pretty cool mob that it just pushes buttons for you. It's almost like an observer in a sense, but or not an observer. Doesn't make sense at all. What did I just say? It is not like an observer. It is not like an observer. But it just pushes buttons. Pushes buttons. Pretty good. But that would be also a good addition. It has potential to do great things if used correctly. It is a mob that lets you do redstone, which we don't have. It's exclusively a redstone type mob, so that's pretty cool. It can also be decorative. So that is these mobs, they're very. It's not a solid pick of mobs. It was not a solid pick of mobs that Mojang chose, as you have the Scared of the Dark, the printer, and the toy that walks around pushing random things. You know, one of these sounds much better than the other, and that is the LA, but that might also not be good. Just remember, when you vote, think hard about it. Think about, how would this affect the game? How would this be in the game? It would kind of, it would, like, if you think about the glare, think about, how would I be able to use this? How would other people be able to use this? How would this be useful? Like, maybe you play a multiplayer server, for example. One of my friends pointed out that if you have the LA and you get the LA and play music, can't just somebody else just play music outside your base to get your items that you wanted from the LA. And if they put like diamonds in there, you just get all their diamonds. If you just found one diamond and you just wanted more, you just printed more. They just printed more diamonds for you. There you go. Just get free items. That in a multiplayer sense doesn't go well. Also, the Copper Golem, that wouldn't probably work as well in a multiplayer sense, because it would lag like crazy probably, because it would just push buttons constantly and that area would be loaded, so you're just pushing buttons. Probably break some redstone engineering in multiplayer servers, probably. I don't know. It would lag a lot. So in a lag sense and a multiplayer sense, the glare is a pretty good pick, but that's depending on how the mobs would be like presented then. So I've babbled on for too long, and I'm probably not cutting into this, and it's probably 20 minutes long, and no one's gonna watch this, but I have talked about this too long. It's a topic that I feel strongly about, that the mob vote, and I I love this game, this Minecraft game. This is blocky, perfect game. I've played it for years now. This is my favorite game, and I think that it should get some quality. It should get some thinking done when you can choose the features. That that is, yeah. That's all. That's all. I bye. Roll the outro.